Isn't our spiritual journey about trying to wake up? That's the practice, right? Trying to wake up, taking steps to expand our heart center so that we don't feel separate or disconnected, so that we don't prosper ideas of separation in mind or activity. But just like the daily word shared this morning, human beings are meaning makers, are they not? Label throwers, label slingers sometimes. And it can be difficult to separate ourselves from these labels because sometimes they're put upon us, sometimes we're aware of them, sometimes we're not. Sometimes we even put them upon ourselves when the people who first christened us with them are no longer around. But nonetheless, it's part of the human condition to be in this realm of label making. Now, some of them are beautiful, labels like mother, labels like child, labels like fill in the blank. What is one of your most sacred labels? One of the most sacred roles to you? Singer, songwriter, whatever it is. And some of them are not so beautiful, are they? Some of them we're aware of, some of them we're not aware of. Dan Millman, who is an author, he wrote The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, and he is also a former Olympian and gymnast. In The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, and in his writing, he had some wisdom to share, and I brought 3 cards for us this morning of the wisdom he shares. He says, most of us share a yearning for something more, for a peace that transcends the stuff of ordinary life. This is the promise of spiritual practice. This is the promise of spiritual practice. He says, within every so-called other stirs a soul like our own, yearning for the light. Within every other, every person we call other, stirs a soul like our own, yearning for the light. We are all in this together, each a part of the body we call planet Earth. He says, when motivations fade and doubt arises, the choices we make and the actions we take are the true test of character. The choices we make and the actions we take are the true test of character. Now, I want to expand on that a little bit this morning because he referred to the choices we make and the actions we take. But there's one more very powerful creative element that is very real. Thoughts. Thoughts are things. In Unity, we practice metaphysics. We practice an awareness and waking up to a metaphysical reality, a world beyond and behind and underneath the world to which we can consciously and physically become aware of. A world that is beyond the general senses that science and that humanity claims to be real. And science is catching up, is it not, to the truth that there is a practice and there is a principle to this notion that thoughts are things. It is written up in literature all over. It is starting to be practiced in school systems that encourage human beings to not look just at their actions, not look just at the words they express, but to actually look at their thoughts and to realize that this is a place of creation. In New Thought, in Unity, our principles teach us that everything, before it was a reality, before it was manifest, it was a thought. So whether it is a thought in the mind of God or is a thought in the individualized expression of the mind of God creating, it is a thought first. So let's dive today into a realm, into a place where it may or may not be safe. There's a singer-songwriter in Colorado. What did he share, Stan? Your mind is like a bad neighborhood. You should never go there alone. That's Chuck Pyle, a singer-songwriter from Colorado. Are we willing to dive into the conversations in our minds, the things that people say, the labels people sling? Are we willing to dive into that with complete awareness and take a look at not only the individual consciousness, but the collective consciousness? We know in unity that everything starts with me.
Broken heart, wayward soul, evil sinner, stupid fool. Told you were nothing, told to behave yourself, you told that life isn't fair. God is an angry God, a righteous God, a fearsome God, and He loves all the little children, and not all the little children, because you thought about sex and you thought about religion and you thought about leaving church and crying. But you better watch out, you better not pout, you better not cry. I'm telling you why. Dirty girl, lazy boy, alcoholic, drug addict, oh, we're praying for you, holding our hands, praying for you, reading our Bibles and we're making a circle and we're praying for you. But there's a whisper in your heart, you can barely hear a word, and it's something like I love you, and it's something like you're cured, and you question its religion, and it shows you all your fears, and it's something like I love you, and it's something like I'm here. It was never your fault, baby. You've done all that you can. There is no more to believe in. There is no more than I am. Simple minds, cult victims, feel-good Christians, naive fools. Y'all believe in a happy God who loves the lowest sinner. You believe that Satan isn't real. Well, what about all the evil done for all the evildoers? What about the murderers and the sex offenders and the prostitutes and the rotten people now? What about God's sacrifice, His only begotten Son? Don't you feel guilty about that? You were born in sin, God has offered you His salvation now. Don't you feel guilty about that? Pagan witch, devil child, blind optimist, new age idiot. Oh, we're praying for you, praying for you. Oh, we're waving our Bibles and we're talking to one another about you, and we're praying for you. But there's a joy within our hearts, and we clearly hear really all the rules. Oh, oh, God is only love. Our sins are to fulfill, and that's all there is to tell you, 'cause that's really all, really all. Oh, God only love. Now children, sins are to fulfill, and that's all there is to tell you, 'cause that's really all, really all, really all, really all. Ooh, God is only love. Sins are to fulfill, and that's all there is to tell you, 'cause that's really all the rules. All the rules. All the rules. All the rules. All the rules.
I bet what stood out to you most in that song was that God is only love. That's a joke. It's an intense song, isn't it? Is there anyone that's having trouble presencing it? If you are, stick with me. That is the conversation, isn't it? In the field, in our planet, on planet Earth, in the collective consciousness. The conversation about labeling and judging, putting down and saying when something seems less than me, less than perfect, less than God, oh, I'll know that you're being healed out here. Without saying what needs to be healed in here for my heart not to presence this moment, this activity, whatever I'm seeing, with absolute love and compassion and conviction in the one power and the one presence to be activating order in everyone's life. To be directing each one of us to the highest emanation and expression of self. And to be dismantling all of the illusions, either accepted or inherited, aware or unaware. Anything less than presencing a moment, than presencing self, and then presencing another, anything less than that presencing being fully immersed in love, are you ready, unity people? Is sin. Anything less than presencing the self and presencing other, no matter what it appears to the ego mind, anything other than presencing each other with pure love is sin. In Unity, we teach that sin is not something you're originally born with, but it is a word we use to describe missing the mark. It comes from the archery term, and literally comes from the archery term, to miss the mark, to try to hit it on the bullseye and to be somewhere else. And is that not what happens every time we fail to behold the Christ in self and the Christ in other? So a lot of times in this human journey, we feel like we're, doing the best we can. We look at all the actions, we look at all the things that we do, all the choices we make, and we say, I'm doing the best I can. But how often do we dive into the mind, into the realm of thoughts, and start working there? Not working like a struggle, but working like awareness. Being authentically aware of the thoughts we have in our mind and asking the self, how safe are the people in my world on the streets of my mind? How safe are you on the streets of my mind? Because we too often fall asleep to the reality that these thoughts are creative. In the scriptures it says, ye are gods. That means we are given the dominion over these co-creative faculties. We are given the ability to create. In fact, we are charged to create. Psalms 82:6, I said, ye are gods. You are all of the Most High. We have been given the ability, sourced with the ability, to judge on behalf of the great pure source that is love. That love is God. We are each given the commission and the authority to exercise this faculty and this power. How safe are you on the streets of your mind? Anything less than love is missing the mark. Now, the fear that comes up is, well, if I apply anything less than love, then everything's just going to fall apart. Then there will never be improvement. Then there will never be correction. All these things that I see that are awful, that are evil, or that are bad, or that are wrong with me, or you, or us, or whatever it is, will never go away if I approach them with love and compassion and wisdom and presence. Do you see the insanity? In fact, anything other than love, compassion, wisdom, and presence will actually bring the opposite vibration and will hold whatever it is that is trying to reveal itself in wholeness, trying to be healed. It will hold it in a pattern of stillness and recreation. Because the thoughts that we activate make a difference. Are we done with the era of believing that if we can't see it, it's not there? Transparency is the new word for this new era of humanity, isn't it? Really. Transparency. It used to be that there's a lot of stuff that happens behind closed doors. Do you even know that on Google Earth, at any moment, you could zoom down and see a spot? You could see your car. You could try to go home and do it. Look on Google Earth and see if your car's in your driveway. See if you're out there doing ballet. This is the day and age of transparency. And in Unity, we're pioneers. On Unity, we are on the forefront. And being on the forefront means we take our principles from 100 years ago and we do not leave them there, but we bring them powerfully to this moment and activate them. And how we activate them and how we teach that is by teaching that thoughts are very much things and they very much make a difference and they are not invisible. In fact, there is a realm and there is a world where they are transparent. So if you could imagine for a moment, and you can close your eyes if you choose, but you just imagine for a moment what it would look like, what it would be like if your thoughts were things, and if you could see them occur. And you could see and just imagine in your mind that when you think of a person, just bring a person to mind, that a line goes out from your mind to their being, a cord, a connection. And that in this connection, there is a transference, there is a creation, there is an energy, there is activity. And imagine it's real. And through that cord, you can send a blessing or a curse. Imagine all the thoughts in your mind in one day. And imagine all of those cords going to situations, going to circumstances, going to people, places, events, things. People you passed by and didn't even realize what occurred in the mind. But imagine that for a moment. And imagine it real. And when you're ready, come back to this moment with eyes open. Pretty powerful, is it not? It's a pretty powerful practice to take a look behind the doors of the mind. So let's ask ourselves today, what messages have you heard about yourself? What messages are echoing in that mind? What judgments have you cast upon others, either out loud or in the mind? Is your mind a conversation with God, or is it something else? Is your mind a space and a place where there is a conversation with God, or something else? Consider this, that the heart of everything, the heart of all of us, is the temple of God. That the mind of all of us is the activity of God, God activity in action. How well are we representing our source? How aware are we of our calling and our charge to step into alignment with our highest intentions? Now, another thing we teach in unity, and this is kind of the newer unity, but it's non-resistance. And some of that has come from psychology, some of it has come from world religions, but it's also come from practice and experience to recognize that if there is something here, and I reject it and I'm afraid of it, and I say, I can't hear that, I'm not going to listen to that, oh, no, deny, what tends to happen? I mean, if you're lucky, it could just burst and go away. But through experience, we know what can happen is that it can just get bigger and it can get louder. It's like taking a screaming temper tantrum child and just trying to, put it under a table, put a mouth. I got a little pacifier for my friend. I have a friend that just had twins, and I got her pacifiers because there were two of them. And the pacifier has a little dial, like a radio dial on the front, like, I just want to turn it down. Of course it doesn't work. But just because I might turn the dial down, does that mean the sound is not reverberating? Does that mean the sound is not there? No. So that's our healing work. But today we're going to explore something that we can do, not to resist those sounds, but to transform them. So here are the steps. The first step is this: be aware of the conversations in your mind. Be aware of the conversations of your mind. If we're resisting even looking into them, if we're resisting acknowledging them, if we're resisting knowing that, yeah, I think that or I say that, every time I see a person that looks like this, my mind goes, oh my gosh, what are they thinking? Why are they there? What are they eating? What are they drinking? Oh my gosh. Ugh. If you think you don't ever do it, just check. Just check. Because the thing that we're not aware of is not so much that we do that, but it's that when I do that, I am putting a curse upon another beloved of God. That I might see someone engaging in an activity, see someone living a life, see someone doing whatever they're doing, and my heart intention might be to say, bless you, keep going, you can do it, whatever it is. Get there. I'm your cheerleader. I'm here with you. I see the light in you. I know wisdom is right with you. I know you have everything within you to make the choices and to live the life of your dreams. Take the risk. Dream big. God is love. But what comes out is slingshot after slingshot after slingshot. And we're not here to curse, are we? We're here to bless. And our blessing makes a difference. But so does the energy that we hold each other in, does it not? Has anyone ever had someone in your life hold you to a label or an energy or a field of consciousness that you outgrew? That in every other area of your life, you demonstrated and manifested transcendence over this label, right? You got it down. But what happens when you go back into the field of consciousness of that person that holds you stuck, that holds you as the brat, that holds you as unintelligent, that holds you wherever they hold you? What happens the moment you come into that field? There's a giving and there's a taking. Sometimes we regress in an instant. We regress to that state of consciousness, not necessarily just because someone's holding us in it or someone's doing it, but that there's an aspect of self that is still trying it on. Now, what if everyone outside of us was actually a partner? You could say a partner in Christ, a partner in God, a partner in consciousness, a partner in enlightenment, a partner in awakening. And that instead, when we hear these conversations that are less than God, we say, oh, wait a second. Step 2, spiritual pause. It's time for a spiritual pause. What am I saying? Saying is creating, whether it's in mind or whether it's external. So what am I saying? In that spiritual pause, we let go and we let God. Whatever our process or our practice is of drawing in the wisdom, drawing in the light, and saying, sweet spirit, show me how to use this. Show me how to be an optimist about that which is going on in my mind so it can be transformed right here, so that right here I can hold on to all of the mental manure, so that what leaves from my space, from my field, is a blessing. Because that is what I'm here to do and be, is a blessing. There's a story that's been told, a joke that's been told for over 100 years and in many, many ways, and it's a story about a little boy. It's told in different ways, but this one is going to be a story about a little boy. And this little boy wakes up Christmas morning and goes to the tree, all excited to open the presents, runs down the stairs, goes to the tree, and instead of all these gifts under the tree, there's a whole load of horse manure piled up high. And the little boy, being witnessed now by his parents, the little boy gets so excited, and he grabs a shovel, and he starts digging and shoveling and digging and shoveling, and his parents start walking towards him, coming down the stairs. Why is he so excited? What is he doing? This is, what, it's manure. What is he doing? And the little boy looks up at them, and he goes, there's gotta be a pony in here somewhere. So can we take a spiritual pause? And in the mind, no matter if we are present to blessings or if we're present to a little cesspool of manure, be honest with ourselves, be authentic, and say, there's gotta be a pony in here somewhere. And sweet spirit, show me what is the blessing. Because the blessing will either be a healing of self that will transform your life, or it will be an activity of what we are called to be on this planet, which is angels for each other. Amen? So that third step in co-creative partnering is to say, what do I wish I was saying? What would I love if it naturally just came to my mind? What would I wish I thought? I'm going to give an example, and I don't even like giving this example, but I'm going to give it because I've seen it, I've witnessed it. Take a person that is very overweight and exercising, overweight and exercising. What are the vibrations in the field of consciousness that approach that person? Criticism? Negative thoughts? Judgments? Or are they, good for you, I love you, you have all the force field in my mind, I am supporting you, loving you, blessing you, you are perfect just the way you are, and the where you're going, and the place you're going to, and what's unfolding and what's developing. My whole field says, I love you. My whole field says, I love you. Now you fill in the blank with whatever you notice in your own mind, because I promise each one of us, if we listen, we will notice something. I will notice something this week as I go about presencing the streets of my mind. I will notice something that I was not even aware of, that if I pause for a God moment, I will have a healing. And I will realize how I was either keeping myself or someone else or a conscious field of labeling captive. And how I was actually co-creating that which I do not want to see on this planet, which is not my God-given, beautiful, amazing birthright. Well, it is a birthright, but it's one that we don't always consciously want to use, right? So if we can elevate the conversation in our minds and instead ask that question, what do I want to be saying or creating, and switch it around and start doing that, actually having a little schizophrenic conversation in our minds and saying, what I meant to be thinking is, what I would like to be saying is, the blessing I would like to be giving is, and engage in a conversation with God. What would God say here? What would God do here? Because my voice is the representation of God on this planet. My hands are the hands through which God does God's work. My mind is the activity sourcing expression and creation on this planet. How sacred is this temple? This process, friends, is not optional. It happens. It happens whether we like it or not. So, can we find the positive in our minds? And can we become more aware of what we're creating? You can go with the theory of there's a pony in there somewhere, or more gracefully put in the words of Mother Teresa, go behind the apparent circumstance of the situation, and you name it, XYZ, and locate the love in yourself and in all others involved. Now, if it's not enough for us to just hear it, because patterns are hard to break, are they not? Patterns can be really hard to break. I made a mistake of, even when someone told me not to, I fed our neighbor's chickens right on the deck. And someone said, don't do that, because where they eat, they also do other things. But they were so cute. And I thought, well, just this one time I'll do it. It won't really make a difference. So I did it. I fed them on the deck. And now you can only imagine what I'm trying to do to correct the neural pathways of these chickens that now come to the deck every day to find their food and to do their business. If you need motivation, just know that there is a part of each of us that has a chicken mind, does it not? Has a chicken mind, and it needs to have some reprogramming. So here's some motivation pieces to really take to heart that affirmation and that knowing that scripture verse, ye are gods. And to say to oneself in those moments, to say to the whole mind, the whole temple of the mind, ye are an expression of God, right? And to breathe into that as a mantra or a meditation. The other is to think, and this is a good one, to think of the film Defending Your Life. And if you don't know the film Defending Your Life, you can put it like this. Think of a life review, and we're all connected in consciousness. In a life review, the idea or the possible concept is that as we pass, when we pass, that border between my feelings, my thoughts, myself, and you are unveiled. That border is dissolved. So just kind of like Facebook and the internet and cyberspace, right, and transparency, once we're out of this body, the concept that you do a life review and you can actually feel the effects of your life. Now, let this not be something that makes us afraid, but let us be very aware that this possibility, right, that we are all connected and that I too can feel your feelings and I too can be present to the effect I've had on your life. In spiritual principle and spiritual practice, whether we're aware of it or not, is very true, no? So when we try to recognize that one thing affects another thing, what you do to yourself, you do to another, and what you do to another, you do to yourself. When we practice this, we are practicing awareness. What are we here to cultivate? We're celebrating the season for nonviolence, and we're celebrating becoming more aware of places we create a lack of peace or we create violence, and places we create more God, we create blessings, we create power. Let us know who we are, let us know how we serve, and let us claim our divine inheritance, our divine birthright to bless, and raise the level of the conversation in our minds. I close with a quote from Sri Swami Satchidananda. The whole world is the altar of God. If we can only change our vision and the thought, whatever we do becomes a spiritual practice. So let our lives be a constant service to God at the huge altar here. The whole world is an altar. Everything is God's manifestation. Whatever you do to somebody, you are doing to God. Namaste.